from Group 101. Today I'm interested to talk about transpersonal psychology, and I will be covering the definition given by different scientists on this transpersonal psychology, and I will also talk about the development occurred in this field.
Transpersonal psychology. Transpersonal psychology or spiritual psychology is a field of psychology that integrates the spiritual and transcendent aspects of human experience with the framework of modern psychology. Transpersonal psychology includes spiritual, self-development, self beyond the ego, big experience, mystical experience, systematic trance, spiritual crisis, spiritual evolution, religious conversion, altered stage of consciousness, spiritual practices, and other sublime or unusually expanded experiences of living. Definition of transpersonal psychology. LaJoy and Shapiro's definition on transpersonal psychology, they found that 5 key themes in particular featured prominently in this definition. Based upon this study, the authors proposed the following definition of transpersonal psychology. Transpersonal psychology is concerned with the study of humanity's highest potential and with the recognition, understanding, and realization of unitive, spiritual, and transcendent state of consciousness. Walls and Vaughan suggested that transpersonal psychology is an area of psychology that focuses on the study of transpersonal experiences and related phenomena. These phenomena include the causes, effects, and correlates of transpersonal experience and development as well as the discipline and practices inspired by them. Hartelius, Kaplan, and Radin conducted a retrospective analysis of definition of transpersonal psychology. They found 3 dominant themes that define the field: beyond ego psychology, integrative holistic psychology, and psychology of transformation. Analysis suggested that the field has moved from an early emphasis on altered stage of consciousness to a more expanded view of human wholeness and transformation. Development of the field. Let's talk about origin. The thinkers who have set the stage of transpersonal studies are William James, Stanislav Grof, Carl Jung, Roberto Assagioli, and Abraham Maslow. More recent attention has brought to light transpersonal aspects of Jean Piaget's untranslated French works and argued that Piaget's transpersonal experiences and theoretical interest were a major motivation for Piaget's psychological research. In 1968, Maslow was among the people who announced transpersonal psychology as the 4th force in psychology in order to distinguish it from 3 other forces of psychology: psychoanalysis, behaviorism, and humanistic psychology. Then let's talk about formative period. Gradually during the 1960s, the term transpersonal was associated with a distinct school of psychology within the humanistic psychology movements. In 1969, Abraham Maslow, Stanis Grof, and Anthony Suchit were among the initiators behind the publication of first issue of Journal of Transpersonal Psychology, the leading academic journal in the field. During the next decade, significant establishments took place under the banner of transpersonal psychology. The Association of Transpersonal Psychology was established in 1972. In 1970s, the field developed through the writing of such authors as Robert Frager, Alcey and Elmer Green, Daniel Goleman, Stanley Krippner, Charles Sturt, Roger Walsh, John Welwood, and Ken Wilber. The 1990s introduced new profiles who contributed insight to the field. Among these authors we find Brant Cartwright, Stuart Savitsky, David Lakoff, Robert V. Turner, and Francis Lou Cartwright and Savitsky made contribution to transpersonal psychotherapy. Both authors published their primary work as part of Sunny series. Lakoff, Turner, and Lou, writer in the clinical field, were the author behind the proposal of a new diagnostic category to be included in the DSM manual of the American Psychiatric Association. The category was called psycho-religious or psycho-spiritual problems and was approved by the task force of DSM-4 in 1993 after changing its name to religious or spiritual problem. Let's talk about the final later development. The beginning of 20s was marked by the revisionary project of George Ferrer, which is considered to be an important contribution to the field. His main publication from this era, Revising Transpersonal Theory, a participatory vision of human spirituality, was part of Sunny series in Transpersonal and Humanistic Psychology. In 2007, the Journal of Transpersonal Psychology and the International Journal of Transpersonal Studies were accepted for indexing in PsychoInfo, the general database of American Psychological Association. In 2012, the Institute of Transpersonal Psychology announced that it was changing its name to Sophia University, a change that included a new profile in the academic landscape with an expanded graduate program featuring computer science and business. Talk about the map on definition given by great psychologists. They are LaJoy, Sapiro, Walsh, Vaughan, Hartelius, Kaplan, and Radin. According to LaJoy and Sapiro, they found 5 key themes in transpersonal psychology, and they are the state of consciousness, higher potential, ego, transcendence, and spiritual. And as per Walsh and Vaughan theory of transpersonal psychology, this phenomena include the causes, effects, and correlates of transpersonal experience. And according to Hartelius, Kaplan, and Radin, there were 3 dominant themes in transpersonal psychology, and they are holistic psychology, ego psychology, and psychology of transformation.
Branches and related fields. Several psychological schools or the branches have influenced the field of transpersonal psychology. Among these schools, we find the analytical psychology of Carl Jung, the psychosynthesis of the Robert Ascaguli, and humanistic psychology of Abraham Maslow, a major transpersonal model of psychotherapy, as reviewed by Cartwright, or the models of Ken Weinberg, C.G. Jung, Michael Basbrun, Stuyvesant Grove, and Hamid Ali. Transpersonal art is one of the disciplines considered by Bruno Schwartz in listing how transpersonal psychology may relate to other areas of the transpersonal study. In writing about the transpersonal art, Bogoslawski begins by noting how, according to Brikia and also to definitions employed by the International Transpersonal Association in 1971, transpersonal art may be understood as artwork which draws upon important themes beyond the individual self, such as the transpersonal consciousness. This makes the transpersonal art criticism germany to mystical approaches to the creativity. Bogoslawski's paper cites Brikia 1971 as an early example of the transpersonal art and claims that at the time his article appeared, integral theorist Ken Weinberg had made recent contributions to the field. More recently, the Journal of the Transpersonal Psychology in 2005 volume 37 launched a special edition devoted to the medical, which contain articles on film criticism that can be related to this field. Transpersonal psychology may also sometimes be associated with the New Age beliefs and pop psychology. However, leading the authors in the field, among those Swirsky, Ravan, and Hartelius, have criticized the nature of the New Age philosophy and discovered Ravan. It states that the transpersonal is not a New Age. And then organization, publication, and locations. A leading institution with the field of the transpersonal psychology is the Association of the Transpersonal Psychology, which was founded in 1972. Past presidents of the association include Alice Green, James Fadiman, Franz Wilhelm, Arthur Hastings, Daniel Goleman, Robert Frager, and Dwight Judy. An international organization. The International Transpersonal Psychology Association was founded in 1917 and has more recently been reviewed by the Harris Friedman, also a European counterpart to the American institution. The European Transpersonal Psychology Association (ETPM) was founded much later. The leading graduate school is Sofia University, formerly the Institute of the Transpersonal Psychology. According to the source, the university is private, non-sectarian, and accredited by Western Association of the Schools and Colleges. Although the possibilities of the transpersonal psychology has spread to a number of interest groups across the US and Europe, its origin was in California, and the field has always been strongly associated with the institutions on the west coast of the US. Both the Association for the Transpersonal Psychology and the Institute of the Transpersonal Psychology were founded in the state of California, and a number of the field's leading theorists came from the area of US. Thank you.
Hey, myself Nitin Yadav, and my topic is research, theory and clinical aspect. And on this, first we'll talk about research, interest and mythology. The research of transpersonal psychology is based upon both quantitative and qualitative methods. But some commentators have suggested that the main contribution of transpersonal psychology has been to provide alternatives to the quantitative method of mainstream psychology. Although the field has not been a significant contributor of empirical knowledge on clinical issues, it has contributed important quantitative research to areas such as to study of meditation. And now we'll talk about the theories on human development. One of the demarcation in transpersonal theory is between authors who are associated with hierarchical and hierarchical, sequential or stage-like models of human development, such as Kevin Wilber and John Batista, and authors who are associated with Jungian perspective or models that include the principle of regression, such as Michael Washburn and Stanislav Grof. And now we'll talk about the Kevin Wilber and John Batista. So the transpersonal psychology of Ken Wilber is often mentioned as an influential theoretical framework for the field. Wilber is often regarded as a leading terrorist and pioneer of the transpersonal movement, but he has not been actively associated with the label for quite some time. Wilber's spectrum of consciousness consists of three broad developmental categories: the personal or pre-egoic, the personal and or egoic, and the transpersonal or trans-egoic. Then Wilber's understanding of the levels of consciousness or reality taken up in the context of psychoanalysis, drawing from Ferrari's criticism or pre-analysis. Robin S. Brown adopts the participatory paradigm as a meaning to fostering clinical pluralism. Okay, so that's all from my side. Thank you. Ragging from matter of body to mind to soul to spirit, or from personal to personal to transpersonal, is often referred to as the great chain of being. The 1990s marked a move into the world of integral idea for Wilber. According to the commentators, he stopped reframing to his work as transpersonal in favor of the term integral by the mid 1990s. Okay, so now we shall talk about Michael Washburn and Stanislav Grof. So Michael Washburn represent a model of human development that is informed by psychanalysis, object relation theory, and the depth psychology of the Jungian perspective. According to the Washburn, transpersonal development follows the principle of a spiraling path. Central to his model is the understanding of dynamic world, a deep level of unconsciousness with spiritual qualities that the person is in contact with the pre-personal stage of development. Washburn was constant his own perspective, which he calls spiral dynamic, to the developmental theory of Kevin Wilber, which he calls structural hierarchy. Then transpersonal theory of George Freire. So the scholarship for the George Freire introduced a more pluralistic and participatory perspective on spiritual and ontological dimensions. In his revision of transpersonal theory, Freire questions three major presuppositions or frameworks for the interpretation that have been dominated in transpersonal studies. Freire's approach to the participatory thinking.
A warm welcome to everyone. This is me, Kanak Sanjay Urkude, present in front of you, and I am glad to further proceeding our project, that is transpersonal psychology. As for now, my group mates have discussed various concepts of transpersonal psychology. Now, I am further concluding this project of transpersonal psychology with the concept reception, recognition, and criticism of transpersonal psychology. Here is one mind map showing the personality psychology. It is bifurcated into 5 different main divisions, that is nutrition, mind, surrounding, immunity, and body. These 5 divisions are further divided into 3 or 2 main divisions, that is subdivision. For example, like nutrition is divided into food, mentality, and 5 senses. Immunity is divided into physical immunity and mental immunity. Mind is also divided into 2 subdivisions, that is, first is superconscious, conscious, subconscious, and unconscious, and the second is memory plus tendencies, that is related to our surrounding. Now, reception of transpersonal psychology. Reception of transpersonal psychology in the surrounding culture reflects a wide range of views and opinion, including both recognition and skepticism. Transpersonal psychology has been the topic of a few academic articles and book reviews in other academic fields, including psychiatry, behavioral science, psychology, social work, consciousness studies, religious studies, pastoral psychology, and library science. Several commenters have expressed their views on the field of transpersonal psychology and its contribution to the academic landscape. Haggard, representing the contemporary psychology of the early 1980s, regarded transpersonal psychology as a fringe movement that attracted the more extreme followers on humanistic psychology. He did, however, remark that such movements might enrich the topics that psychologists study, even though most psychologists choose not to join the movement. Adams also regarded transpersonal psychology as a fringe discipline. He also observed its status as a controversial field of study. However, although transpersonal psychology has experienced some minor recognition from the surrounding culture, it has also faced a fair amount of skepticism and criticism from the same surrounding. Freeman mentioned that the early field of transpersonal psychology was aware of the method of inner empirism based on discipline. Introspection was to be a target of skepticism from outsiders. John F. Kennedy University in India, which included a transpersonal psychology department, the program was considered to be unique at the time, but also controversial. Commenters presented their skepticism towards the program. Another continuous aspect concerns the topic of psychedelic substance. Commenting upon the controversial status of psychedelic and entheogenic substance in contemporary culture, author Elmer MacDonald and Friedman observe that these drugs have been used for therapeutic effect in the transpersonal movement. Here, changes in the personality occur in the field of self-discipline, communication skill, leadership, adjustment, openness, and agreeableness. First, the leadership include people-oriented, respectability, emotional intelligence, and the risk management. Then, adjustment includes facing challenges, understanding respect and appreciation, positive attitude. Then, openness, new ideas, values and beliefs, happiness and creativity. Agreeableness, trusting, compliant, modest and cooperative. Self-discipline, ambition, organization, resilience, work ethic. And the last but not least, communication skill, which include active listener, empathy for others, positive thinking and emotionally radical. Then discuss about the topic that is criticism, skepticism and response. Criticism and skepticism towards the field of transpersonal psychology has been presented by a wide assortment of commenters and include both writers within its own rank, as well as writers representing other fields of psychology or philosophy. However, Kind notes that a fine critics did not differentiate psychology between the field of transpersonal psychology on the one hand and a wider field of transpersonal theories on the other. The necessity of distinction between these two categories is also mentioned by other commenters. Critical remarks from within the field include the observation of Layoff and Liu and the criticism of Vallée. In their contribution to the field of spirituality-oriented psychotherapy, Layoff and Liu discuss the strength and weakness of transpersonal psychotherapy and transpersonal psychology. Among the strengths is its base of theory and practice that allows for communication and dialogue with the other cultures and native healers. Among the weakness is a lack of theoretical agreement, which has led to internal debates and attention from critics who question the validity of the criticism, skepticism and response. Criticism from other profiles closest to the field also include the observation of Ken Wilber and George Farrell. Wilber, one of the early profiles within the transpersonal field, has repeatedly announced the demise of transpersonal psychology. Layoff and Liu discuss the strength and the weakness of transpersonal psychotherapy and transpersonal psychology. Among the strength is the basis of theory and practice that allows for communication and dialogue with the culture. In this revision, he criticized transpersonal psychology for being too loyal to the perennial philosophy, for introducing a subtle cultivation, and for being too preoccupied with trends. He suggests a participatory vision of human spirituality that honors a wide assortment of spiritual insight. The last topic is relationship to science and scientific criteria. The field of transpersonal psychology has also been criticized for lacking conceptual, evidentiary and scientific rigor. In a review of criticism of the field, Cunningham writes, philosophers have criticized transpersonal psychology because its metaphysics is naive and epistemology is undeveloped. Multiplicity, conceptual confusion about the nature of personal psychology itself, that is, the concept is used differently by different theorists and means different things to different people. Biologists have criticized transpersonal psychology for its lack of attention to biological foundation of behavior and experience. Physicists have criticized transpersonal psychology for inappropriately accommodating physics concept as explanation of consciousness. Albert Ellis, a cognitive psychologist and humanist, has questioned the result of transpersonal psychotherapy and the scientist status of transpersonal psychology and its relationship to religion, mysticism, and authoritarian belief system. This criticism has been answered by Wilber, who questioned Ellis' understanding of the domain of the religion and the field of transpersonal psychology, and the Welsh, who questioned Ellis' critique of nutritional emotive therapies. Others, such as Friedman, have suggested that the field is underdeveloped as a field of science and it has consequently not produced a good scientific understanding of transpersonal phenomena. This is, according to commentators, a consequence of a general orientation within the field that regards spiritual and transpersonal experience to be categories that define conceptualization and quantification and therapy not well suited for conventional scientific inquiry. According to the Cunningham, transpersonal psychology has been criticized by some Christian authors as being a mishmash of New Age ideas that offer an alternative faith system to vulnerable youth who turned their backs on organized religion. Now,